But thank you so much for agreeing to do this. And as soon as I heard your story, I was just like, okay, not only do we talk to moms of people who've had these interesting journeys in the spotlight, but also moms who their story just kind of inspires me personally. And you kind of fit the bill for both.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. Well, I just first want to say that the way your family has navigated this, the way that you have been such a bright light and positivity, and it's just been so inspiring to people who have learned about this story and now on a national platform of,
Yeah.
yeah. Has it been
Right.
crazy to see
It,
yourself in magazines and on national news
it
and
has. Yes. It's been kind of surreal.
yeah.
Just, it happened so quickly. After the initial accident, that was, in a lots of news and stuff. So that
Mhm.
was kind of overwhelming because we were dealing with all of his medical stuff at the same time too, and the move, and it was just a lot. But things kind of died down a little while until last weekend, and
Until he appeared in that
it
game.
kind of blew up again. So we're just trying to we're just trying to tread water and keep afloat. Like it's just
Right, keep
a
your head
lot.
above water. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So tell me, let's go back to like young Parker and this kid who loved baseball from the start. Is baseball in your family? Did your husband play, or was this just what Parker's passion was?
So my husband played, high school. He didn't play college, but Parker just that would definitely be my husband's favorite sport.
Uh-huh.
Um, but time Parker was born, I mean, when he was probably 8 months old, he had like a little tyke toy that was a little plastic bat that had a ball attached to it and had a little, well, it was like a T with a ball that would spin around and it
We
would,
had the same one, and the bat was kind of fat.
yes,
They
and
would, yeah.
and then it would like rock and like play music, like take me out to the ball game, or it would talk, like But he would sit there forever, just hitting that and spinning it around when he was just old enough to sit up, and
Mhm.
um, then I would say probably about 2 years old. Like every time he would just wait for my husband to get off work so he could go hit outside, and he joined his first travel team at 5, and so
Travel ball at 5. Oh,
at
wow, that's a
5.
commitment.
Yeah, so his older cousin, who's 3 years older, was on this little travel team for 8 year olds, and they asked Parker to just join. They were going to try to give him some experience playing, and so that was when he first started with 5, and he's just,
Wow.
it really has just been this burning passion of his whole life. He just is just loves, loves, loves baseball.
If you had asked him, like as a kid, which kids so commonly do get asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? Was it always a
It was
pro baseball player?
always MLB,
Mhm.
and there was no backup plan for him because he always felt like planning for Plan B was planning to fail. So there was no Plan B. He was going to be an MLB player, and that was it. So,
I identify with that so much because even from my son who's in music, I can remember him. We'd go to these meetings because he'd been songwriting for so long. And so we'd go to this meeting, and I was, mom was just like, what do I do with this passion and this dream he has? And I can remember a music executive sitting down with Connor and saying, so, Connor, obviously you're talented here, but what's your plan B? This is tough business. And he looked him straight in the eye. And I'd never heard anybody ask him that. And he was like, sir, I don't have a plan B. I'm going to make this work. And so
right.
you telling that story put me right back in that chair where my jaw kind of dropped of like, oh, well, that's a good answer.
Yeah, yeah. That's that was always his. He was going to play in the MLB, and that was it. So
What's his team or what's y'all's family team in the MLB? Who do y'all love
the
to follow?
Braves, the
Oh,
Braves.
the Braves, of course. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, I noticed he had the opportunity recently to go down to the Astros. And so
Right.
I was wondering if there was a connection there, but that had to be such a cool moment for you to see him get to throw out the first pitch and
It
in a major
was.
league stadium.
Yeah, that was kind of surreal too. I think for him especially because he was down there while they were taking batting practice and just talking to all the players that he looked up to so much, and um, he was just kind of awestruck. Just like,
Yeah,
wow.
probably even more motivation though to get back
Yeah.
out there and play the sport that he loves. What do you remember about when he made his college decision and signing day? And I saw the table out on the baseball field and the hats, and you're making the decision. Did he have opportunities to, like, he had a big choice to make, or was it always ECU for you guys?
He, so he initially was, well, he was born in Columbia, South Carolina. So initially, when he was really little, thought he wanted to be a Gamecock. And he quickly kind of changed his mind, probably, I would say, fifth, sixth grade. Um, my husband and I both came to ECU. We went to college here. So, he grew up coming here, seeing the atmosphere, just being a Pirate fan. And I mean, the baseball program here is just amazing. It's top 10 in the nation. So he knew pretty early on that this was a strong choice for him.
Mhm.
When the time came for recruitment, you go to all these baseball camps at different universities that they put on, and the coaches watch you. And he had went to 3 baseball camps that weekend. He went to Duke, East Carolina, and Coastal Carolina, and he went to Duke first and was like, I really like it here. It's real nice. The coach is nice. And then the next weekend he went to East Carolina and he said, nope, this is where I'm going. So he was getting recruited from, a handful of other colleges, but Parker from day one, like once he decided, it was probably about 8th grade that he was like, no, I want to go to East Carolina. And so before he was actually recruited, we would go to these major, showcase travel tournaments, and Parker would come out with all ECU gear on. And, college coaches are there to watch you and scout you. And his travel coach said, hey, Park, you might want to consider not wearing one team when you come out. Like, that might give the wrong message. And Parker's like, I don't care what message it gives. This is where I'm going.
That's great. I love that.
So, fortunately, it worked out for him because he was
Yeah.
very confident. Like, this is where I want to go. So,
I'm sure that made you and your husband as alums super happy too. So,
yeah, yeah,
and of course, that's the path. I mean, I'm sure, you play high school ball to get to play college ball, and then the ultimate goal would have been the next step of hopefully making it, to the pros as well. Take me back to that day in 2018. At the time, we should probably say you guys lived a little over a couple hours away
right.
from where he was going to school at ECU. He was a freshman in
He
college.
was, so it was the summer before his freshman year.
Okay.
Coach Godwin brings the incoming freshmen in that summer session to just get them acclimated to school and practice and being away from home, which is really a great idea.
Mm. Were these
Because
all new friends he was with
these were all new
in
friends,
baseball and
like
that
his
he
new
went out
team.
to the lake with?
Yeah, yeah, all his teammates. Um, there was 4 of them.
And
Um,
I watched the interview that you sent me a link to, and boy, they all seem like incredible guys.
yes, that's a great interview because I had really never heard. They had told us what had happened, but it was really amazing to just hear their side of
Was it also hard for you to hear them give details like that?
it. Yeah, it was. It was because I mean, we kind of we knew what had happened, but to just hear in detail
Mhm.
exactly like the trauma of actually what all of them were going through. I mean, it was very difficult for all of them.
Yeah, I couldn't help but think of that as I watched it. Of this is something that will stay with those boys the rest of their life.
Hmm.
They won't ever forget, the trauma of that day, and it has to be somewhat, of an emotional journey for them through
Right.
that. So,
Yes, very much so. So there was 5 baseball boys, and at the time, Parker's girlfriend.
oh, okay.
They're no longer together, but at the time, his girlfriend. And they were out on a boat.
Mhm.
They had went out on a Friday, and had a great time. And
And
uh,
you knew he was going out on the boat, right? Even though he was in college, you kind of knew what his day was going to hold.
right, right. And so they had went out Friday, and Parker had told us, and it was kind of odd because every weekend they came home. So this was the last weekend that they were supposed to be there, and my husband and I were supposed to come up like on that Tuesday to move his dorms, to move the stuff into from the summer dorm to his permanent dorm.
Mhm.
And so Parker was like, oh, I'm not going to come home this weekend. We're just going to go out. Yeah, he had a buddy that had a river house, and we're just going to go out to the river. And we were just like, okay, I mean, he's been coming home every weekend. It's fine. So they went out Friday, and they were not supposed to go out. Well, Parker was not supposed to go out Saturday. He was supposed to come back, and he was going to take one of the boys come back to Greenville because he had plans. And Parker told us, I'm just going to go back. I'm going to hit. He had things he wanted to do, but
I think
the
it's
other
interesting.
plans fell through, and they just kind of talked him into staying. And
And you, in one of the many interviews that you've done, you mentioned that I think it's that mother's intuition. There's
mhm.
something that you had a funny feeling that day. Tell me more
Yeah,
about that.
my husband and I both had a funny feeling, and it's kind of odd because I'm not one of these people who, I just have this feeling. I have this feeling like I don't get those, but it was just an uneasy feeling. I didn't feel great, and at the time, the Blue Jays coach, first base coach, his daughter had just been um, actually tragically killed in a boating accident.
Oh, wow.
And I I feel like that, my husband had just read an article about it, and it was kind of fresh on our minds, and we were like, you know, um, just be careful. Actually, my husband even had told him, hey, why don't we just come on today and meet us back in Greenville. We'll just go ahead and move you today. And Parker's like, no, Dad, like, we're just going to go out. And we were trying to find ways to, like, get him not to, but
Yeah.
then you question yourself and you think, oh, you're just being paranoid. You read this article and you're super, paranoid about it. So,
And you're kind of in that delicate stage of parenting where he's 18,
right.
living off on his own, but yet you still like that's a huge transition. I just think for a
Yes.
mom in general, where you can't really say
Mhm.
no,
Right.
you're not
Right.
going on the boat, you're coming home. But
Right.
then, and you're trying to walk that fine line of you don't want to say that to them,
Right.
but yet as a mom, you still are just like, okay, is this the best choice? It's
Right.
hard. It's really hard.
And, typically it would have been fun. Like they went out Friday and they went out on the boat and, you know, they went tubing, just
Yeah.
normal stuff. And we had no feelings about it. It's fine. They're having fun, whatever. And for some reason, the next morning, we just did not feel good about it.
Right.
And then later, you beat yourself up about it, and you think, I, it was God trying to tell me something? Was I getting these messages like stop
Yeah.
them? And should I have said, no, you're not, even though you're 18 and off of school, you're not going to do it. Come home. But you just, it
You
was,
can't second guess that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's hard. So you got the phone call, or your husband did, that every parent dreads, the one that says there's been an accident.
Right. So we had just talked to Parker and all the boys, and we were like, y'all just be careful. My husband Jeff had just told him about the article he read, and about the young girl losing her life, and he was like, y'all just be careful. And he actually had talked to everyone except for the driver of the boat because he was out doing something in the yard, so he didn't hear. But um, it was probably no more than 40 minutes later we got the call.
If you haven't tried Bareface Skincare, let me encourage you to change your skincare game and see the difference. Use the code MAMA15 to try any of their medical grade results driven products for 15% off your purchase. You might want to check out the Jennifer's Favorites bundle. The bundle includes the Liquid Gold Vitamin C Serum and the Barefaced Hydrating Lotion. I use both of these twice daily and love them. When you purchase the bundle, you will receive the travel size toning pads as a free gift with purchase. I'll put the link to order in the show notes, or just visit barefaced.com and search the word Jennifer. If you're new to Bareface, you can use the code MAMA15 and get 15% off your first purchase at beerface.com. I could not be more excited to welcome Abel as a partner to the podcast, and I'm so excited to introduce you to a brand that I not only love, I respect. Abel is a Nashville-based fashion brand focused on empowering women, both the women who make their products and the women who wear them. Abel is famous for their leather bags, handmade jewelry, shoes, and the best denim jacket around. You are going to love these high quality, gorgeous pieces. And here's the best part: Got It From My Mama listeners get 20% off their first purchase site wide with code MAMA20 when you visit abelclothing.com. Remember, every purchase provides an opportunity for change.
So
Oh,
it was pretty sudden.
so they had just kind of started their day on the boat
They
when
had
this.
just started. It was the second ride of the day. Parker and his teammate Dixon were on the tube, and I guess they had fallen off pretty quickly. Got back on the tube, went for another ride, and fell off on that one. And Parker was kind of swimming back up to the boat, like casually pulling himself in with a rope, like most people do, swimming. And the boat got put in reverse and essentially backed up on him, but also like grabbing the rope with a propeller. So it pulled him under as it was backing up.
Mm.
And we got the call from his then girlfriend, and she called Jeff and she said, Jeff, get to Greenville. There's been a boating accident. They're flying Parker to Greenville, and I think he's dying, is what
She
she
said that on
said.
the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gracious. Tell me what that 2.5 hour car ride was like for you
It
guys.
was awful because my husband's a pediatrician and I'm a nurse, so we have medical background, and we know the severity of that. We know that Bath, North Carolina is not far from Greenville, North Carolina. It's only like a 45-minute drive. So if you're going to fly him to Greenville from 45 minutes away, it's bad.
Right.
And it was horrible. My husband is driving like a maniac down
Sure.
I-95. He's
I'm sure.
literally going 110 miles an hour. And when I tell people that, like, he really was going 110, had his hazards on. He's flashing his lights. If people won't move out of his way, he's driving on the shoulder of the road, on the interstate.
Mhm.
It was just horrible because you have no information. You have, we keep individually trying to talk to each kid that we know, and
Trying to get details.
yeah, trying to get details, and it's mixed details. His girlfriend is in a pure panic and she's just freaking out, and then we have another kid that's like, well, he's got some cuts on his legs, but I think it'll be fine. And I'm just
Trying to
like,
paint a rosier picture of, yeah. But I mean, like you said, you knew when they life flighted him for somewhere
yeah,
so close that wasn't a
yeah,
good
yeah.
scenario.
We knew. And then at the time, our middle daughter, I think she was 16, she was upset and she was saying, it's probably not even that bad. Slow down. You're
But
overreacting.
was she with you in the car?
She was, yeah. Both of our
Okay.
daughters were in the car with us, and um, we were like, no, we just knew it was bad. And when we got there, he was in surgery, so we didn't get to see him. We had to wait probably 5 hours before he got out of surgery. And
Mm.
I think it probably hit our daughter when, the surgeons came out to talk to us, and, there was trauma, there was vascular, there was plastics, like everyone came out to talk. And they're kind of telling us what's happening. Like, at first they couldn't find a sciatic nerve. They didn't know if that was completely cut. They just couldn't find it. They didn't know. And my husband says to them, is he going to be able to play baseball? And
Immediately, that was one of his first
that was
questions?
one of his first questions, because he knew how
Wow.
important that was to Parker. He knew
Exactly.
that if Parker woke up, and he was going to ask, am I going to, like, what's this entail for me,
Yeah, yeah.
and so we're like, he says, is he going to be able to walk? Is he going to be able to play baseball? Like, you don't understand. That's that's what's going to keep him going. And I
Wow.
remember the vascular surgeon looking at us, looking at my husband like he was crazy, and he said, um, "We got the bleeding to stop, and he's alive." And that's all I can tell you right now. And then I think that kind of just really hit all of us like, oh,
We need to just concentrate on the fact that he's alive. Yeah.
right. And so,
But like you said, your husband knows Parker in his heart, and that would probably be the very first question he asks,
right, right,
when yeah. So it's just how well you know your son. But yeah, I'm sure it was a little bit of a reality check too of like, okay, he's breathing.
right. And so, later on, we find out exactly how close to death he came. We talked to a flight nurse who came in to check on him, and they were like, "Wow, his vitals are a lot better now." They told me what his blood pressure was in flight after all the blood products that they gave him. They got it up to 60/30.
Got it up to wow, that's
So,
I think one of the coolest parts of the story, just from learning about it this past week, um, when they finally got a boat that would help them, because I didn't realize, but when the rope got caught up in the propeller, the boat wouldn't run,
right,
and so when they were trying to flag someone down for help, the boat that finally stopped to help them had a nurse on it.
right. So
That's God right there, isn't it?
it's amazing, just the things that, like, looking back, the things that God put in play to completely save him. But the kid that Parker was supposed to take back was from Florida, and one of his best friends actually passed away in a boating accident. And so he kind of knew, because his friend had just recently passed away, he knew what to do in that situation. And
Wow.
they pulled Parker up and he went into action. They took off their shirts, ribbon them, tying tourniquets as best as they could around his
Yeah.
legs. But when they got someone to help and they transferred Parker over from the boat that he was on to the other people's boat to take him into the marina, there was a nurse on that boat, and she took rope and like did better tourniquets around his legs, and
Wow.
um, that's what saved him, because he was bleeding out.
What did the outpouring of the community, the baseball family, your hometown, like all of the things, what did that mean to you? I know there were prayer vigils,
Right.
and you probably received an outpouring from places you could have never imagined.
It was overwhelming, like, just immediately how much, just the prayers, like so many messages sent to me, people who are amputees that, we actually have made a good friend with one, and he lost his leg with, a boating accident. Um, he's actually my age, but he was there the day of the surgery, like the very following day. He FaceTimed Parker right before going into surgery for the amputation. And because that was kind of thrown of us quickly as well. But
You held out hope for a little bit that an amputation would not be necessary, right?
right, right. So both of his legs were severely cut, just kind of torn to shreds by the
Yeah, a
propeller.
lot of people may not realize his other leg was also not in good
Hmm.
shape. Yeah.
Right. Both of his legs were just like really damaged, but his right one being more severe. They've kind of felt from the get go that they could repair the left. Um, it would just take a while, and they
Mhm.
told us that he probably wouldn't be as strong in the left, which he is today.
That's pretty
but
awesome. Don't give this boy a challenge.
but the accident was July the 23rd, and they had to amputate August the 4th. So they did try
About
for a while.
almost 2 weeks.
Yeah, they tried for a little bit to save it, and they thought that they were going to be able to, but his blood just kept clotting, and the blood flow, they couldn't establish good circulation to his right foot. We just had prayer vigils, people contacted me throughout the nation, even in other countries. It was just crazy. Fundraisers, a GoFundMe was set up by someone here in Greenville that we didn't even know, to help financially. And that raised a good bit of money. So it was just, and then even once we were out, like, I don't think I cooked for 2 months.
Wow.
And we had food coming to our house. They had food trains. They had, you know, people back home were doing t-shirt fundraisers. They were doing bracelet. I got so many prayer blankets, like just stuff being
Saw
sent
a
to us.
mural and a wall painted, Parker Strong.
Yeah, yeah. That was back home. Yeah.
Oh,
At the batting
yeah.
cages that Parker grew up going to. They painted that. It was just crazy. It was really heartwarming. I mean, it made you definitely feel like you're not alone. They're with
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I bet it really did help.
Because the hospital at that time was a very lonely place. They still had COVID rules, and um, during the intensive care, they would only allow one person at a time and only two per day. So my husband and I were rotating. And when I was in, he was not, and we couldn't talk to each other. So it was just kind of one on one with Parker. And um,
I hear great feedback from those of you who have tried coat defense on your pets. Since we've been using the sensitive skin shampoo on Tucker, he is less scratchy and more shiny. In between baths, Coat Defense Daily Preventative Powder is a game changer. It eliminates the bacteria that causes odor, and unlike a typical deodorant or spray, Coat Defense doesn't mask the odor, it eliminates it. Tucker's friends at Coat Defense are offering you 15% off to try the Daily Preventative Powder or any of their other awesome products that they offer for pets' health. Just use the code MAMA15 at checkout. Able offers thoughtfully designed apparel, denim, shoes, handmade jewelry, and leather bags that are to die for. These are items that you can feel good in and feel good about. Each piece is manufactured in the communities where Able makes an impact, including neighborhoods here in Nashville, Tennessee, and around the world. I love that women comprise more than 90% of the staff at Able, and Able has seen firsthand how providing women with safe, dignified jobs has the power to change not only their families, but entire communities. Use the code MAMA20 for 20% off your first purchase site-wide when you visit ableclothing.com. Remember, every purchase you make provides an opportunity for change. Well, and that leads me to probably the most important day as far as your role as a mom and the impact that the conversation that you had with Parker. Did that happen after the amputation, or is this when he came awake from the accident when he asked you specifically about baseball?
that happened after the amputation.
Okay.
At
And
first, they told us, like, they thought that they were going to be able to save both legs, and his plastic surgeon said, I feel like I could get him, if I can get him back to 80%, um, that would be a huge success. And that immediately upset Parker. And Parker looked at me while the doctor was in the room, and he said, 80% is not good enough. He doesn't know who he's talking about. And I was like, well, let's just calm down. Like, But then, unfortunately, they weren't able to save that leg, and it ended up being amputated below his knee. And honestly, for a while, we thought he was going to lose his knee too. But yeah, then we were in the hospital one night, and I mean, Parker is very strong, but that's very tough to deal with. Suddenly, your whole life has changed, and not only is your life changed, but you're feeling like your whole dream has changed. Something you've worked for your entire life. There's not been a plan B. This is just how it's going to be. And he said, "Mom, I just don't feel like I'm going to be able to play baseball." And I said, "Well, why not, Parker?" And he said, we had researched and couldn't find that there was anyone who had ever played Division I baseball with a prosthetic. And he was like, I can't find that it's been done. And I was like, well, if it hasn't been done, then someone has to do it. And
why can't you be the
why
first?
can't you be the first? And it just kind of came out. I was hoping that he would be, but I knew I had to give him something to fight for. I couldn't
Yeah,
lose him in the hospital. I couldn't
right,
lose
right.
him his drive to get better. Whether it happened or not, I didn't know, but I was like, well, why not? And I told him then, I said, someone's always going to break a record, and someone always has to be a first. So
Mhm.
either break the record or go for the first,
And part of your message was also, no one can tell you what you can or can't do. They can't
Right, right,
define what kind of progress you're gonna make here. That's
right. I told
awesome.
him, I was like, don't let people put limitations on you. Don't
Mhm.
let people tell you what you are capable and not capable of doing. Like, you know what your job's going to be, and you know what you want to do. So, you know,
And
that's what
Parker
we're
says his whole mindset just flipped
yeah,
when
that's what he
he was.
says, which is incredible to me, because I was thinking, thank God I said the right thing at that moment. Like I said,
Yeah,
you're
that
just
tells
kind of
tells
winging
a
it.
mama that your words matter. Watch what you say, right?
Right, right. But I
Yeah.
told my husband just recently, I said, I'm not the type of person that you hear people say, well, God told me this or God told me that.
Mhm.
And I'm always like, wow, that's incredible. Like, how is it? Did you hear God? Did you feel God? Like, I've never been that person. I've had thoughts or feelings, but, I can't say God told me to do such and such.
Right.
But from the very beginning, as tragic and as sad as it was, I just had like this kind of overwhelming peace. Even though I was sad, I had a peace that it's going to be okay. Like, it's going to be okay. He's going to get where he needs to go. So, looking back, I was like, well, maybe that was God talking to me then. Maybe
Yeah.
that was him saying, it's going to be okay.
Favorite things I read about Parker, and he has been so positive. And I know you've been with him in the valleys and the hard days and the tears and all of that, but he's been such a positive influence of his determination and his perseverance. But what has it been like for you to watch him lean on his faith and share it through this journey? I want to read one of the things I wrote down that he said. He said, God let me live for a reason, and it's my responsibility to show his light to others. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. That's been incredible, because I can say of all things that I knew. I mean, I knew Parker was special. I knew that he was very driven. I knew what a hard worker he was. I knew, given the opportunity, he would make his way on the field, with two legs or with one. Like, I knew all of this. And we had always been Christian, but he had never been as vocal
Hmm.
about God. I mean, he would tell you, yeah, obviously, he'd put it on his little bios about son of the king or things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So it's not like he was ashamed of God, but he wasn't as vocal as he is now. And I
Mhm.
think just this whole experience has changed. I think when you come that close to death, you really realize. I mean, there was, when he was in the helicopter, he actually said that he there was a time that, like, he was out of his body and he was watching them work on him, and he knew then, like, oh, I think I might be dying. So I think, just seeing the miracle, like I said before, he almost lost his knee, and we were preparing for that. His knee was completely dead. Um, the bones were dead. There was no blood flow, and it was black, like the tissue was black. And we were waiting for his thigh to heal a little bit better to make a flap for the stump, because at the time it was still too damaged. While we were waiting, the knee came back to life. But then after it's all said and done, the blood flow comes back, the bones come back alive, all that tissue turns pink, and they were like, you can explain it. Like, it's back to life. His knee's going to be saved. And later on in PT, we see photos of this, and once we saw photos, it really hit us like, wow,
This
look
is a
what God's
miracle.
done.
Yeah.
So Parker has seen these miracles and he has lived it. And so now I think that's one of the things I'm most proudest of. He's living it. He's just has this passion now to, you know, he's really put it in God's hands.
Mhm.
He's like, MLB more than likely will not be in the future. I mean,
Don't say that
realistically,
to
but
him.
well, I think he kind of knows. Like, that would be
Prove us both
great. That would be
wrong.
great to be there. But I know the type of level he's got to get to with that
And you
prosthetic
know what?
leg.
Maybe God has a different path for him of how he gets there. Maybe
Right.
it's coaching, scouting, something that is still gonna let him live out that dream. It just, as we learn so often from the Lord, it may just look a little different than,
Right.
what his
Well,
plan was as a 10-year-old.
that's right. Well, I told him from the get go. I said, I don't know why this has happened. I don't. I know that God could have stopped it. He could have stopped it from happening, and I don't think that he caused it to happen, but he definitely didn't stop it from happening. And
Right.
for him not to stop it from happening, he's going to use it for a reason and a purpose. And we don't know what it is, but there's a reason behind it. And he knew this was going to happen before Parker was even sent to this
Right.
earth, and he knew, the plan.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
told,
and Parker's even said that his favorite thing in the world is to prove people wrong, and he sure has done that, hasn't he?
that's right. So now Parker is just like, okay. And sometimes I think, Parker's whole world was consumed by so much baseball
Uh-huh.
that, now this has actually opened up his mind to, okay, well, maybe I will be the best motivational speaker, or maybe I will be like this amazing Paralympian, or I'm going to start a foundation to help.
Oh my goodness, I love
So,
that. Yeah. And even
so
just thinking of new dreams and,
right.
ways to take this and still, inspire people and all the things. Take me to the game last week. I want to fast forward through. Of course, it didn't happen easily. There's been 2 years of rehabilitation and
Right.
work beyond belief on his end, but you got to celebrate it in a pretty big way. When you arrived at the stadium that day, did you know he was going in the game?
We did not. We did not. We had so many people ask us, like, let us know when Parker's playing. We want to come. And um, his coach was very honest from the get go. Like, I don't know when Parker's going to play. It's got to be the right situation. His coach is very protective of him, and he's not going to put him in where he feels like he may fail, or he may be embarrassed,
Mhm.
or, he's just super protective of him. So we, he and his coach had told us, I wish I could tell you, but I don't know when it is. And
Mm.
we were just kind of all pro. And he told all of Pirate Nation on the radio too. He said, everyone's asking me when's Parker Byrd coming in, but I don't know. And I'm just going to have to tell you, come to every game. Like, if you want to see.
That might be the way to get the crowds there, just waiting to see
That's
Parker. I
right.
can only imagine now people are really hoping to. I just heard he's going to start again. Is it this weekend?
He's, we have like a Clark LeClaire Classic. It's like a little tournament. Well, it's
Okay.
not little, it's a big tournament, but where lots of different colleges come in. So who knows? He still won't tell us when. So we didn't know. Parker said that his coach told him before the game, just be ready to go in. And we do have a guy that's been working with us filming, and he's kind of been there from the beginning since Parker's been discharged. I think our hope is to get a documentary at some point, but
Well, there's a story to be told for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
he's been filming all along. Like, he comes every couple of months to film like the progression.
Uh-huh.
And he was down there, thank God, filming.
Yeah.
He texts us and says, "Hey, like, if Parker gets in, I want y'all closer to the down here so we can record." And we're like, "Well, we don't know when Parker's going to get in or if he's going to get in." And I was like, "Well, you're down in the dugout, so you need to give us a heads up." And
Yeah, you're going to know before we know.
and so he called my husband and was like, "Hey, the coach told him to go warm up, so y'all might want to come down." So we didn't know.
Yeah. So that's how you
We
ended up in a good spot on the fence line.
right.
Yeah. How emotional was that for you?
It
I mean,
was it was just amazing. It was, to see him work so hard, to see like his life shattered, and for him to dig his way back out. And you know so much support we've had, but we've also had so many people just not to think that it's going to happen, or that it was even possible. And So we've had a lot of, online, a lot of you read all the negative comments,
Yeah.
but we've had a tremendous amount of support as well. And, just to see it finally come to life, everything that he's worked for, it
Yeah.
was great.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Well, your family has walked this journey in such a beautiful way. And I love that you've given God the glory through all of it. And I just think that Parker Bird's going to be a name that people know and just associate with inspiration. I mean, he's going to inspire so many people. And even in the world, like you said, of amputees and young children who've gone through this, and to look at him
Right,
and to be able to see his journey and say, I can still follow my dream. I think that's
right.
pretty special.
Yes, and we've had so many people reach out that, I think the world of amputees, it's great, but there's a lot of people that, like, have things that you can't see. We've had a kid with a traumatic brain injury that had recovered from it, but still has lasting effects from it. We've
Right.
had a kid who just got a message from a mom. Her son has a photo with Parker and said, "My son looks fine, but he had a kidney transplant 3 years ago, and he's always felt different.
Mm,
People can't see, but he feels different. He feels like he's not, you know, a part of things,
right.
and just to be able to see your son go out there looking different, you know, changes my son's whole perspective. So,
Yeah.
I just told my husband, I was like, it's very cool to see not only in the limb differential world, but also just people who feel different.
Yeah. People who've just been through challenges of any
Hmm.
sort, really. I mean, that's what the
Yeah,
relatability is going to be for Parker for sure. So it's so nice to talk to you. I really appreciate you responding and agreeing to do this because it's definitely a story that is worth telling for sure. So,
of course. Thank you.
continued prayers for your family and this journey, and you've got lots of games to go to now.
That's right. A lot
Oh,
of baseball.
yeah, I'm a little jealous. I'm not gonna lie. I had a high school baseball player, and it is when those days are over, it's tough. So
Yeah,
because you
yeah,
just enjoy it so much. So I love my time in the bleachers for sure. But
yeah.
thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Mitzi.
Absolutely. Thank you.